Hey there, lads. Valerie said. I need to talk about something I have been sitting with for a long time, something heavy. The kind of thoughts that takes up residence in the back of your mind until it slowly pushes everything else out, cornering you in the dark until you are completely alone with a reality you never want to face. It's the kind of thought that doesn't flash like lightning, it just settles in like a cold rain that you can't escape, soaking through every defense you have spent years trying to build. There is a specific kind of pain that nobody prepares you for. They write songs about heartbreak, they write books about the sudden shock of goodbye, they make movies about the dramatic, tearful argument in the middle of the street, but nobody ever warns you about this quiet, suffocating version. It's not the pain of losing her, it's not even the agonizing pain knowing with absolute certainty that I was the exact reason it fell apart in the first place. Those are in ways that can at least me. Those are wounds without clear borders. I can look at them, I can measure them, and understand the geometry of exactly how they were made. I can trace the timeline and say, this is where I stay quiet. This is where I let my fear run the show. This is where I broke it. This is different. This is the loop in my head finally colliding with my own reality. Over and over and over again. Spinning in a circle with absolutely no clean exit. No sudden realization that sets me free. No logic that breaks the cycle. It is just a constant grinding friction between what I wish was true and what I know is true. It's the sound of a mind that doesn't know how to turn it off anymore. Running on empty, burning through old memories just to find new ways to punish itself. I watch from afar, from a distance, as her life just keeps moving forward. The world didn't stop turning where we ended. The clocks kept ticking, the days kept changing, the seasons shifted, and her timeline just kept stretching away from mine, growing longer and longer while I stayed anchored to the exact moment the bridge collapsed. And I noticed everything. I noticed the spaces I used to occupy being filled by people who are stable, people who are healthy, people who don't wake up every single morning already completely exhausted from whatever war their own brain decided to wage against them overnight. I see people who can just show up. They show up for her without the storm trailing behind them, without the crushing weight, without dragging every broken, unhealed version of themselves into every single room they walk into. They exist in a clarity that I couldn't give her, no matter how desperately I wanted to, no matter how many times I promised myself I would do better next time. They offered her a calm sea, while all I ever had to give her was a shipwreck. And the most brutal part, the thing that feels like a physical punch to the chest every time I close my eyes, is that I cannot even be angry about it. Because I look at those people and I don't think they don't deserve that. I don't look at them with bitterness or resentment or jealousy. I don't want to find flaws in them to make myself feel better. I look at them and I think she deserves them. My brain runs the comparison automatically, without mercy, without a single second of hesitation, and it always reaches the exact same conclusion. She is happier now. She is much happier and safer now. And the most devastating realization a human can have about the person they care about most is this: I was the thing she needed to be safe from. So I convinced myself I was only ever a burden wearing the costume of a partner. I look back at every memory, every conversation, every laugh, I rewrite it through the lens of my own inadequacy. I look at old texts and think, she was just being patient with me. I look at old conversation and think she just looked tired, just holding me together. And the worst part is how easily my brain accepts that aspect. It doesn't fight back anymore. It doesn't argue for my side of the story. It just nods and agrees that everything functions infinitely better now that I am no longer indifferent, that the world is a lighter place without my weight dragging me down. Here is the contradiction that I can't escape. It keeps me awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling that feels like it's slowly lowering into the room. Despite believing I am completely disposable, despite having built an entire airtight internal case for why everything functions better without me in certain spaces, I still care. I still love her more than I care about my own life and my survival. I care about her peace more than my own sanity. I care about her comfort more than my own heart, and I can see it in everything. It is woven into every single thought I have, every decision I make, every private moment where my mind is supposed to be resting. I find myself wishing she would just hate me, not because I want it to be hate, not because I want to feel the sting of her anger, but because if I think she hates me, moving on from thoughts felt less, the grief will be clean over. Anger is an easier shield to carry than longing. If she hates me, she won't waste softness on someone who doesn't deserve it. She won't waste a single tear or a single quiet moment by sitting by a rainy window wondering what if. I would rather absorb her hatred. I would rather let it burn through me completely, turning whatever is left of me to ash. That be the reason she carries one extra ounce of unnecessary pain. I would gladly be the villain in her story if it means she gets a happy ending. I panic more over the thought of hurting her than I ever do over my own destruction. My own pain has almost become background noise at this point. It is just a constant hum, a low frequency ache that I have learned to live with, like a scar you won't stop noticing until the weather changes. It doesn't surprise me anymore. It doesn't scare me. But the idea of her hurting because of me, again, because of my insecurity, because of my silence, because of my fear, because of my pain, that is the thing that actually breaks me. That is the thing that makes me feel like I'm physically coming apart, like the floor beneath me is turning to dust. I even find myself picking up new things, learning new skills, a new instrument. I sit there trying to learn how to play the piano, letting my fingers find the keys in the dark, trying to force my chaotic mind into some kind of melody. And I tell myself it's growth. I tell myself it's just for me. That is a distraction, a way to heal, a way to build a better version of myself. But underneath all of that, if I'm being completely brutally honest with myself, there is this fragile and almost unbearable hope that maybe someday, years down the road, when the noise gets too loud for her and the world becomes too heavy, I could use it to bring her to comfort, to be something soft for her when she needs it, to play a song that silences whatever fear she's carrying, even if I'm playing it from a different continent. Even now, even after the distance had become a permanent, unyielding fixture between us. My entire emotional compass is still completely oriented around her happiness. I am still calculating every north base on where she is still standing, still checking her time zone before I let myself feel anything. And that is where it becomes unbearable. Because I genuinely want her to cry without me. That is real. It isn't a performance, and it isn't something I say just to sound selfless or poetic. I want her life to be simple and safe and completely free from the particular chaos I carry everywhere I go. I want her to laugh easily, without that shadow in her eyes that used to tell me she was worried about us. I want her to sleep without anxiety, without the weight of a long-distance silence hanging over her head like a storm. I want her to love and be loved by someone whose first instinct isn't to brace for impact every time things get real. Someone who can hold her hands without trembling from their own insecurities. Someone who can tell her she is enough without needing 1,000 reassurance in return. I want that for her, truly. With every single ounce of good left in me, I want her to be whole. And right alongside that, not replacing it, not canceling it out, not softening the blow, but sitting directly next to it like a wound that won't close, like an open fracture in my chest, is the honest truth. This one hits that 3. When the defense finally comes down and the silence in the room is so loud it makes my ears ring. That is watching her move on, and it is destroying me. I am holding both of these thoughts simultaneously, and they are pulling in the opposite direction with equal devastating force, and there is no resolution between them. There's no philosophy that makes the tension disappear, no refrain that let me keep the love without the grief, no clever arrangement of words that makes it hurt less. It is a slow motion terror, a civil war inside my own ribcage where both sides are disillusioned. How do I survive wanting her to heal, knowing that her healing means I am becoming a ghost in a story I used to live inside? How do I look at a future where she is always accepting that my role in it was to be the lesson she had to learn from, to be the mistake she had to survive so she can know what a healthy love looks like? I hold the selflessness of wanting to save alongside the quiet, agonizing reality that her safety is being built on the other side of the door that is slowly, permanently closing on me. How do I tell myself what is love while feeling like the very definition of love is the thing that's following me out? I don't have the answer. Not yet. I just sit inside of it. I let both things be true at the same time without forcing one to cancel the other. I don't try to fix it, and I don't try to pretend the pain isn't there by burying it under text messages or distracted hobbies. I let myself be someone who loves it deeply enough to want her happy, and human enough to be completely broken by what that happiness cost me. That is not weakness. That is just what it looks like to love someone more than you ever learned to love yourself. It is the reality of giving pieces of your soul away until you look into the mirror and don't even recognize the person you are looking back, wondering how someone used to have so much to say can end up this way. And I think that is the thing I have to change. Not the love. It would never be the love. The love was the most real thing I have ever known, and I will honor it, respect it, and carry it until the day I die. There was the light in a very dark room. Just because the door is closed doesn't mean the room goes back to the day it used to be. Just the part where I always end up at the bottom of my own list. The part where I treat my own heart like a casualty of war. Just something disposable that doesn't matter as long as everyone else is safe. The part where I convince myself that I don't deserve the very thing I am so willingly to give away to everyone else. She always deserves someone who could stay. Someone who was stable enough, brave enough, and healed enough to hold her without self-destructing. Someone who could see a future and walk towards it without flinching. And maybe, slowly, painfully, one day at a time, through the noise and through the silence, through the long nights and the empty rooms, so do I. Thank you, loves.